Prime Day is over. Now let me show you the good and the bad of what happened on the 8th and the 9th, as well as give you some pointers on what we've learned from this period that you can apply to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Let's get into it. Now, as a brand owner, you're probably wanting to know what we saw on the ground among a variety of different brands. And it varied really in terms of the numbers. We saw apparel, giftable products, as well as electronics did well, but supplements and other products that are pretty standard of what you'd buy year round had a bit of an increase, but not too much of one. Some brands were just pretty flat in terms of their sales, and we'd kind of expect that. Prime Day in the autumn isn't always the best one compared to the summer one, but we saw that it was a little bit less compared with 2023. I'm going to get into some of the particular things we saw this year that were different versus last year so that you can prepare properly for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Now, to give you an idea, this is one of the supplement brands we work with, and this is the actual performance they had in terms of day-on-day performance. So they typically perform in the 3,000 a day kind of range, and for Prime Day on the 8th, you did have a jump up about $4,000, and then even close to $4,000 on the second day. But this is the important thing I want to raise to your attention. You probably noticed that the spend is typically around $450, and then it went up to $1,000 on the 8th and $600 on the 9th. So this jump up in spend is not normal, and it's not something that typically happens. But we noticed it with a bunch of different accounts. We've got another account up here just to show you, and you can see a similar situation where it goes from about 300 euros a day up to 800 a day on both of these occasions. Now, what happened here was there was a situation where over the course of the last 30 days, spend was not being maximized. There was spend happening every day, but we weren't using the full budget. So Amazon, you'll probably have noticed on your campaigns, overspent that additional amount on Prime Day itself. And that amount typically, from what I can see, has not benefited any accounts yet. There's obviously increase in ad spend is good, but the spend that went out, it's almost like it didn't make much of a difference. Obviously, on this day, the spend was higher, the sales were higher, but you can see we almost hit that same amount on that day where we spent just $100 more. And all of this is despite having a budget cap of $500 a day. So this increase in spend was not something we were expecting. And compared to last year, we haven't really seen this happen very frequently before. Now, how to stop a situation like this is to make sure your ad spend is spending at the top cap of what the budget is. So, for example, if you have a $500 a day budget and you're only spending $450, expect on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you could spend that additional budget on one day. That could be the difference of you being profitable and not being profitable. So, obviously, you need to make sure your budgets are tailored to that point. If it comes down to it, potentially you need to even look at pausing a campaign if you find it's not performing well, or even lowering the budget on a campaign level, because we have a budget cap on the account and the campaign's still overspent anyway. And this happened on so many accounts that this was something that's not an isolated thing, and chances are you're affected as well. So before the next Prime Day or the next Black Friday, Cyber Monday, make sure your campaign budgets are set at a reasonable level, as well as you don't have spend 100% of the campaign budget if there's unspent amounts enabled. Make sure it's the 25% enabled one, because that's the lowest you can go, unfortunately. Now, what we found was the most successful thing to use on the day was actually using coupons. This way we weren't controlled by Amazon on how much we could do as a deal, because obviously deals on Amazon need to have a minimum amount you can use. So we used 5 to 10% coupons on some of the products, and this is what allowed us to increase our conversion rate up from the 3% to the 4%, and that got us the increased sales. I don't have the data just yet on how the performance was on Wednesday in terms of the conversion rate, but I imagine based on the spend and the sales being roughly the same, we're probably looking at a 4% conversion rate as well. Now, some of the ways we've been able to increase sales for this brand was focus on low TACoS products and bring the TACoS up in line with the targets, of course, but increase the spend. So we didn't obviously increase the spend by this amount. It's obviously being affected by the same as other brands, but we increased the spend by about $500 a day. And that was able to get things up and also increase our PPC orders. Now, I've got the data for the 8th and the 9th, and looking at the actual performance, this is one of the products we decided to scale before Prime Day happens, and having the budgets there really helped out this product. If we actually dive into the numbers, you'll see by having that additional spend, we brought the spend from about 600, 700 a day up to 1300, so an additional 500 a day in spend. TAC costs actually went down in that period, interesting enough, but because of the increased conversion rates, TAC costs actually stayed on target at 15%, but we were able to actually double the sales that came in. So these are some of the things you can do by using coupons as well as using PPC efficiently. What you need to do with PPC is spend according to what you think is going to be profitable. If you say have 60-40 PPC versus organic in terms of performance, you'll be able to then calculate how much additional spend you can put on a product and maintain it at your target TAC costs. So say for example, you have room for another 200 a day. Well, what you can do is obviously allocate that to only relevant terms, so that way the spend goes in the right places. As you can see with this, that additional 500 did make a big difference in terms of performance. And this is because we only put it into a few terms. So we didn't put it into every campaign and distribute it equally. We put it in the most relevant terms with the most search volume where we converted the best. So this is how we actually improved the performance of someone on Prime Day by increasing the budgets. Now it's important to note, when it comes to this, you need to do it only if you have the spare capacity. If you find you're on your TAC cost target, you have no room to maneuver, then unfortunately you can't really risk it. But if you have some room, you've got 5% to work with, find out what your budget is and make sure you're prepared. You can do this for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So it's an opportunity for you to really scale up your brand and really get some market share. Obviously, as well with this, it will help you rank your product if you're pushing on keywords that are hyper relevant to your product. High conversion rate as well as sales velocity will help you rank, so it's going to work for you if you do it in that way. So what have we learned for Black Friday? Firstly, limit your budget spend on the day. So if you have unused budget amounts, lower your campaign budget to reflect that. You don't want to be overspending on Prime Day or Black Friday when that comes, so go ahead and make that change so that doesn't affect you at the end of November, as well as look at what your budget cap is. If your budget cap's a lot higher than what you're prepared to be spending, or you don't have a budget cap on, maybe you want to have a budget cap at your top spend, make sure your campaign budgets equal the budget cap so Amazon doesn't have control of what spend is going where, into what campaign. So those are the first things I would address. The second is make sure you use coupons. Coupons do make a big difference, so it's good to get those set up and use them. Even if it's 5%, it does help with conversion rate. And lastly, if you have products below TAC costs and you want to allocate more spend to them, this is a good opportunity to do so. So add a reasonable budget on top, which means it won't go above your target TAC costs at that typical sales rate, and see how you can perform. It's a good opportunity to scale, particularly with increased conversion rates, and there's a lot more volume on the platform for particular niches. So take advantage of that and try and make more profits. The main thing you don't want to do is overspend and get the same amount of sales that you normally do. That can happen if you're not careful with your budget and you spend in the wrong places. So if you are going to increase your spend, target them in the right spots and be very narrow with your targets. We hope you found that helpful and hopefully give some insights on how to properly prepare for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Of course, it's good to look at what happened over the period of Prime Day and these sort of sales events and try and make changes so that Amazon can't spend your money without your knowledge or overspend on your PPC. As you expect, if you set a budget that you're going to be spending at that particular amount, but Amazon seems to be trying to find ways around that. So be prepared and make sure you're not going to overspend. Of course, if you need help with this, you need help with your Amazon PPC, contact us below, KickstartPPC.com, schedule an audit with us, see how we can help you out. Still plenty of time before Black Friday, so we can dive into your account and find where things can be improved. Of course, don't forget to subscribe for more Amazon PPC and FBA content, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.